Today I'm going to show you how I built an entire disc golf app using ChatGPT. Alright, so for those that don't know, ChatGPT is a hugely popular AI client that allows you to basically ask a text chat anything you want, and it will respond with pretty much any information. It is delayed a little bit because it's not up-to-date information. I think it's about 2 years delayed. But it allows you to create insane questions, insane answers, and it just has so much flexibility that it really will shock you. So I really recommend you check it out. Also, this is my 100th video, and I didn't actually plan on this being the high energy video, but it is. I've spent about 15 hours just on this one site. So I really would recommend, if you guys like this content, please subscribe, and I guarantee you'll get to see more. But along with that, since I'm about to hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be doing a 24-hour video where I spend an entire day on one disc golf course. I can't go anywhere else. I can't go home. I have to sleep at the course. You do not want to miss it, so make sure to subscribe. All right, so based off the votes, people wanted to check out the best players' highest and lowest rounds and averages, which I thought would be a great opportunity to flex what ChatGPT can do. They also wanted pictures of McBeth. I am going to fulfill that promise. But before we get into that, let's go over the actual stats portion, because that's a lot more technical and maybe not as funny, but more technical. All right, so I come from a software engineering background. I have been a developer for about 7 years now, and I will say that lends it to be a little bit easier experience when you're a developer versus if you're just some new person trying out the software. You're probably gonna have a little bit more of a bumpy road. I also knew exactly what I wanted, so that was very helpful. All right, so I wanted to do what's called a web scraper, which allows you to basically look at a site, pull some information, and then manipulate it in any way that you want. So I knew that the PDGA had round information that would allow me to get round ratings, player stats, and stuff like that. And so I asked it, can you build me a web scraper from pdga.com and give me the top male players with their ratings and their top 5 most rated rounds in the last 12 months? So actually what it gave me was very, very informative. It wasn't necessarily a copy paste. There was a lot of small changes that I had to make, but I won't say that's because of the restrictions, because it's not up to date. There was actually so much that it did get correct and it did have right, but they just don't have real-time stats, so you don't get that. But it allowed me to get a good baseline. So with that baseline, I was able to extract this information. It's obviously not that exciting, and it's just like round ratings, top rounds, but this is something that is very easy for anyone to just go home and do. I recommend you just try it out, even if you're non-technical. But we get to see Paul McBeth obviously has the highest rated round, and then we get to see people that are lower ratings, what their highest rated rounds are. But then we see players like PT Belt, who I think is just playing in Japan. He has an 1113 rated round. I would say that is probably a little bit inaccurate because it's such a specialized field. But it's interesting stats. That's something that I would not know about if it wasn't for this web scraper that allowed me to get this information. But to get to the more cool parts, so I looked at the site information and it gave me the ratings. But what I needed to do was every time I got a new player, I had to check the details page, which actually gives me every round that they've ever thrown. So you get to see ratings from as far back as 2005 if you're looking at Nico. So that allows me to get so much information. But there's one caveat. That is that these requests, and a request is just looking at a website and getting back a response. These requests took over a minute just on that first page because I had to look at, I think it was 20 players. So basically looking at 20 players, individual ratings pages, which already do take a little bit of time to load. And then we had to get the base page with their ratings. So there was a lot of information. I still haven't really figured out a great way to overcome that. So looking at the entire, what's called a robots.txt, and this allows you to look at every page that is openly available and every page that's not available to be searched by Google. So it's actually really informative if you want to see, hey, does this page actually exist? Because I wanted to see if there's one page where I could just look at top rounds. Because a lot of this information, while it was interesting, it wasn't as interesting as the top round of a person ever, top round of 2022, stuff like that. So I asked ChatGPT, hey, can you give me the top rounds? And what it gave me back was such a bummer. And that was because it said, oh yeah, you want the top rounds? No problem. But once I went to the website that it was actually referencing, I noticed this page does not look valid. And I think it's because the PDGA had a redesign. They had a whole new interface to the website. And a lot of these pages don't actually exist anymore. I actually don't have a great solution for the best rounds ever. I just have to look at the top rated players, see what their top rounds are, and go from there. It still is a pretty good indicator, but obviously there's just outliers that you want to see. Like if there was like a 950 rated player that shot like 1100, I totally want to know about that. But as of right now, there's not really a great way to do that as far as I know. There's probably so much technical detail that you guys probably don't care about, but just want to tell you what's going on. So it builds a Python script, and it allows me to hit the PDGA website, come back with some information, and then with that, I can get a whole bunch of stats. So I actually get to look at I want to say it's like 10,000 rounds just on this first page, because you look at all these players' rounds ever. It's a lot of information. So I just told ChatGPT, hey, can you build this website and show the ratings that I'm trying to get back from this web scraper? And to my surprise, it actually did it. And not only that, it built a server so I could actually hit the Python code that I'm working with and have a front end server. So there was a lot of information that allowed me to get just by asking. And then once I actually got that information, I built the site. And so I said, hey, can you make a couple changes? And it did that. And then once I got the main page going, I actually wanted to get a graphical way to view this information, because it's not that interesting if it's just text. And once again, provided a great template. So I had to do a decent amount of rework. I spent 15 hours looking at this. So it definitely wasn't just copy paste, but it did give me a great baseline and template to base off of. So I was able to actually get not only the ratings and the top rounds, but a whole bunch of other stuff. Like what was the worst round? What was the average? What was the standard deviation of the rounds? And this information allows you to see a whole lot of interesting things that you wouldn't be able to see if it wasn't for actually coding it out and getting to see this calculation done. There's stuff maybe on StatMando, maybe on the PDGA website that gives you similar-ish information. But from my experience, this is actually pretty unique. So looking at this graph, you can actually see that the standard deviation of the rounds is pretty unexpected, I would say. You have Paul McBeth nearly at last place. You have Eagle at dead last. And then you have Rookie at number 1. And I think this is kind of an interesting thing. So you have Paul that has a wide degree of variance. And then you have Rookie that's very consistent, but doesn't always get the top rated rounds. But also have a little bit of wide swings where they could play really good. They could play really bad. You just don't know. And to go along with this, it was very interesting. So the highest rated round of the collection I was looking at was obviously Paul McBeth with 1108, I think at Memorial, not totally sure. And then the worst rated round of anybody was also Paul McBeth at 990. So getting to see everybody's information side by side, which was really intriguing, because I was obviously aware that there was just a little bit of variance with Paul, but actually getting to look at the data and see, oh yeah, he does have a pretty wide degree of variances to his round was cool. And it was kind of validating to prove this inclination that I've had. And it's also kind of crazy that even with these degrees of variance, you still have Paul that has an average rated round of 1048, but then you have Ricky that has a much lower degree of variance, and his average round is only 1046. Obviously 1046 is still amazing. It's such a small change, but it is important to note that Ricky plays very consistent, but doesn't necessarily have lights out rounds, whereas Eagle plays amazing rounds, but also has some rounds where it's just kind of just not on it. All right, so let's check out the page in all of its glory. All right, so you probably can't tell, but the background is actually Nico and Paul at USDGC. I think it's 2007. So I had to include that because the votes really wanted to see Paul. So I had to pick the most obscure picture, and here it is. So with that, I definitely wanted to make more advances to the site. I'm going to make it public in a couple weeks. But I really liked getting to see this whole operation, trying to see if I could make something that's actually usable and informative. And I think I actually did succeed in that regard. I have a whole fully fledged website. I was able to build some basic styling to make the site look actually somewhat decent. And that was honestly not all that much effort. So getting to have fun, get some information, also build a pretty dope site was really cool. But let me know what you guys think. If you have any other ideas, I'd love to try them out. But with that, make sure to subscribe. I appreciate you guys so much for subscribing. You have been doing it like crazy, and it's honestly been kind of rocking my world. I've been really excited about the future and where this channel is going. And honestly, starting about 3 years ago, I did not see this channel being where it's at right now. I'm so excited by the people that are watching my content, being entertained by this. Obviously, I'm not like the most energetic guy, but I really appreciate you guys watching, checking out all my work. I really appreciate it. And I will for sure make a 1,000 sub video where I spend 24 hours on one course. You do not want to miss it. I'm a little bit nervous to see how that ends up. Hopefully people don't get mad. But thank you for watching. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Wild Runs, signing out. Peace.